Hi Disney hopefuls! I'm Ashley Lusk and I have just finished my audition for Disney. I know that everybody's got different tutorials or videos about what their experience was like and what sort of advice they can give you if you're looking at going into a Disney audition. I know that a lot of the videos that I have seen have been about people who might have only made it to the first round, what they wore, and those sort of things. So I'm going to cover a few things here for you. I made sure to write note cards this time. I tried the first time and realized I was saying a lot. So forgive me if I say because I know it might happen without me realizing it. So what we'll cover is the starting of everything, what happened in my interview, what the first cut was like, what round two is actually kind of like. Something people haven't really talked about is actually the reading, and then I'll also throw in a couple extra tips for you as well. So to start out, everybody gets to the location. I did mine in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I know a lot of people have talked about how there could be anywhere from a minimum of like 50 people to 500 people at an audition. My audition ended up being with approximately 30 people total. So Minnesota was not all that popular, but I assume that places like California, New York, and Florida will of course have tons of people. So you will want to get there early if you're in a bigger city, because I'm pretty sure it's guaranteed that you're going to face those types of problems. Lucky for me, I got there 15 minutes before sign-in, found the space, and signed on in without any problems and no waiting around. So it was pretty easy for me. The first thing, of course, is that people are actually really friendly. I know that a lot of people say that everybody you meet there is really nice, very friendly, very open. I was actually really nervous of trying to go out of state to do this interview because I know Minnesota nice is sort of nicer, so I figured it would be better for me to be on my home turf. When I got there, I actually didn't know where the audition sign up was, and so when I got to the first floor lobby of the location, somebody actually approached me and said, "Oh, are you here for the Disney audition?" I'm like, "Yes!" And they're like, "It's actually up the elevator," and they gave me the instructions. Once I went in to sign in, they said, "Thank you for signing in, and you can go ahead and head back down to the first floor." Once everybody was signed in at approximately the right time, one of the judges came down, collected those who were auditioning. The Disney auditions are closed auditions, and so that means no family members, no friends, no supporters. It also means no video recording and no pictures. So just so you have that in mind, be very careful of what you do during your audition when it comes to those sort of things. The next thing that happened is we went into this giant ballroom. It was a ballet studio, so it was a huge place. And we got in numerical order, and then they took our measurements. So you take off your shoes, and they have you step onto a platform for a measurement device, which I think was really neat. I think they should use that over at the hospitals or something more often, because the way they do it at hospitals is just annoying to me. That's just a personal note. So then they just take your measurements, they do it 3 times for your accuracy, and then they just have you step out of line. After that, we waited around for everybody to get through. My number was 17, and again, there wasn't all that many people, so it wasn't a long wait at all. The judges then said, "All right, well, we're going to wait for a few more people to try to, see who's straggling in and, a few latecomers if we have them." So they just kind of waited around for anybody else to show up. At this point, we had an opportunity to mingle. I know that a lot of other tutorials have talked about the fact that, you sit, you wait. Mine wasn't very much waiting. It was a good mingling time, though, and I highly encourage this mingling time. 4 things to keep in mind when you are during this waiting period or this mingling time is to be yourself 100%. I know that a lot of people or a lot of like websites and stuff like that, trying to find Disney information is almost impossible. But those that, find it, they always say, try to be the character from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. I didn't. I just was my natural self. I'm a children's entertainer, so I'm naturally pretty open to hanging out with people all the time. So I don't have a problem with it myself, but I would definitely encourage you to be yourself because right now, that's what they're interested in. On top of that, they really want you to engage with others. The reason they give you this opportunity to, mingle, also for the fact for them to get everything put together, is they're still watching you. This entire process is an interview, this entire process is an audition. You, for every moment, are being watched. And so they want to see how friendly you are. They want to see how you cope underneath stress, how you cope with strangers, meeting people for the first time. They're watching all of that. So I encourage you to be yourself, be friendly, and just make sure to work the room just a little bit. Make new friends. They're all very nice anyway, so you shouldn't worry about anything. The next part that we did was the interview. For the interviews, there was a few things. First, they divided us into groups based on our numbers. So there was 3 different sections, and each one would be like 1 through like 10, and then like 11 through, so on and so forth, right? And then the judges kind of introduced themselves a little bit more, and they told us that they were actually looking for 3 different parks or locations. They were looking for both Florida, Disney World, Disneyland in California, and for their cruise lines. On top of which, they were also looking for very specific face characters at this audition as well. And so when they were doing the judging process, they said that, of course, they'd be, making us slightly uncomfortable, but that they were looking for specific facial features as well as body types to match characters. Then they simply said, we know it's awkward for us, it's awkward for you, it's awkward for all of us, just grin and bear through it, and everybody will be fine. So they started off with the first line, and then once the first line was done, they then had them move to the back, and then my line stood forward. They then went down the line and asked very simple questions to each of us, pretty much the same questions to everybody. The questions I got asked was I 18 or older? Of course I am. I know, I guess that's not necessarily of course, but I am. What parks was I interested in? I told them all so that I had a bigger opportunity. I mean, if you have multiple opportunities, why not say yes to anything? Then they asked where I was from, and I told them that I was from Lakeville, Minnesota, and they were like, oh, well, how far away is that, since they're from Florida? So I explained that it wasn't too far away. And then they asked me if I had any tattoos, and if I did, then where were they located and about how big they were. I do not have any tattoos, so that was not a problem at all. Once they were done with their questions, they simply asked me to smile at them for a little bit. They were checking my teeth, my eyes, my facial features, seeing if I had any beauty marks or anything that would define my face specifically. Then they had me turn to the side, look at my profile, and then they had me face them again and still smile. After that, they basically said thank you, and they moved on to the person standing next to me. At this point, they simply got through our line, and they were just kind of waiting. While we were waiting for them to deliberate and make, some of their choices from our line, they actually have Disney music playing in the background the entire time of your interview. I don't think anybody has ever mentioned that, but they do. So you get to be a part of the magic for a while. A Whole New World came on, and I don't know who started. I'm pretty sure it was somebody from my line. But again, I don't know who started, but I know I started singing. And eventually the entire place was singing. And so the judges just kind of let us get our Disney on and, get it out of our systems. Well, not necessarily out of our systems. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it doesn't really go away, does it? So anyway, they let us go ahead and do that. Then, you know, they kind of had a little bit of laugh and they let us go ahead and go to the back as they interviewed the third line. At this point, they actually kind of let us mingle and interact with each other within our lines, so long as we weren't being too noisy. And I know that we were kind of cross line mingling a little bit. I was a little worried that it was unprofessional, but apparently it was okay. And so that wasn't a problem at all. At that point, they were basically making their final decisions after talking with the third line and looking over the rest of us, and then we finally came to the first cut. At the first cut, the judges took a moment, again, looked over those that they decided that they wanted to see more from, and made sure that there wasn't anybody that they were missing. And then they simply had an announcement to the whole group that stated, you know, thank you everybody for coming to the audition today. Today we are looking for very specific characters. If you don't match these specifications, you know, or if your number is not called, please, you know, don't feel discouraged by this at all. We do encourage you to come to one of our more open auditions where we do fluff characters as well as other characters that we're looking at for the park. So please feel free to come to another audition for us. If your name is called, please go to this section, and those whose names have not been called, please grab your belongings, and it was lovely meeting you. So it was very friendly of an announcement. The judges were very nice to everybody, and then they simply called out the names and the numbers, because we were a small group, so they did both, and I was chosen to move on to the next round, and those who were not chosen were still very friendly towards all of those who were chosen. And I know that there was one girl in particular that I met who I actually thought would make it to the second round who didn't, and she kind of like gave me like a thumbs up as she left. And so that was kind of really nice that, you know, those who didn't get chosen really didn't have a grudge, or they didn't seem to appear to have a grudge about it. So it was a very friendly cut anyway. Then we come to round two. So during round two, the judges come over to us. There was 30 of us to begin with, I told you, and we actually cut down to about 10. So it was a pretty big cut. Those that were chosen, they then came over to us, introduced us to them a little bit more, and said, so we've looked at you and all of that. We do have some very specific characters, and, you know, we'll give you each one of what your characters we're looking at you for. So they went down the line. There was Anna and Elsa being looked for. There was Cinderella, Ariel. I think those were the ones that were mentioned, and then Tinkerbell. And I was Tinkerbell. I'm short, by the way. You can't really tell that when I'm sitting, but I am short. So I got Tinkerbell. At this point, they then invited us to do a game of charades. Each charades, I'm pretty sure, would be different. I don't know what you would want to expect. The things that I would give as far as advice for the charades is just to be simple in whatever the objective is. Make it so that it's known culturally. Somebody who might not be from the US, who might not speak English, will understand what it is that you're doing. So be simple with it. As well as that, make it exaggerated. You're going to feel ridiculous, but the judges say the more you feel ridiculous, the better you're probably doing. So make very big motions with your arms, your hands. You're not saying anything, but you're making really big motions. Very simple. And again, you will feel odd about that the entire time. I know I did anyway. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. And then I was like, wait, should I do that? Does that make sense? Or am I coming off odd or not? Or am I doing this right? But just go for it. If you make a judgment call, just continue with it. And then at that point, after the charades, they finally gave us an application to fill out. The application is just a standard job application. And then at this point, they finally said that if you had any headshots, that they would now be accepting them. So they finally allowed you to hand in your headshots. I did attempt to hand them my headshot when I checked in earlier, but they don't actually accept them until they actually tell you that they are actually ready to accept them, which means that you are actually being considered. This is a good and a bad thing, I feel, for those who do have contributing experience that could go towards, doing better at the beginning of your audition based off of your headshot. That's nice, but it's also fair because, since that they don't, simply because those who might not have that type of experience or might have a disadvantage when it comes to, what they've been doing so far, or maybe they don't have a headshot or anything like that yet. It gives everybody an even playing field at the beginning, which I think is pretty fair when it comes to the first cut. So the fact that they finally let us hand those in was, kind of nice because now I know I was actually being considered for a position. At that point, they then took some extra pictures of us for their own purposes, and then we came to the reading. So for the reading, they give you a handout for your character, and the handout has about, 2 sentences on it that relates to your character. They then give you time to read it over, practice it, and decide how you believe that character would act using that line, or however, sometimes it's a, greeting, sometimes it's just a little blurb, sometimes it's just something that you might say to the kids. So they go ahead, they give you that, you look them over, you kind of practice it a little bit for yourself. They did separate us based on character, and then the judges would come around and they would have you go ahead and perform it for them. They would watch, listen, see what you were doing, how you were doing it, and then they would give you tips on how to improve what you were doing or how to change your line of thinking. And so they do that, and then for me, I had the female judge come up to me first. I went through my little spiel. She said that was a great beginning. You need to work on your intonation and changing up your character so that your character is well-rounded. And so we practiced it one more time. Apparently I did the same thing the second time, and I was like, oops, didn't mean to. She tried to re-explain it to me, but I figured out what she meant. And then by the third time, she was like, yes, that's what we're talking about. Then she let me go ahead and continue to practice, and then the male judge came over and I then performed it for him, and he said perfect and moved on. And then at that point, after they've given you approximately 5 to 10 minutes of practicing for yourself, they then gathered us together, said, again, thank you so much for coming to this interview. The next step that we'll be having you take is you'll be taking this reading and doing it on video for ourselves, for our records, and then you can expect to hear back from us in the next 2 to 3 weeks with some sort of news. Other than that, we're so glad that you came to audition for us today, and thank you so much for all of your time. And then at that point, they had us leave the room, and then we came in one by one when we were called, and we said our name and then performed our little skit, and then they said their final goodbye to you, and then you were done for the whole process, for mine anyway. I know some people talk about doing a dance portion. Mine never included this parade dance portion. It's probably because they're looking for more meet and greet characters versus the performing or parade characters. I don't know if that's true or not. I know that they did also say that if you were to be chosen for the Florida resort, that you would be, as a fake face character, you would still be working fluff. And so you would have to accept that as part of your job position, that nobody gets out of really doing fluff. So just so that you know when it comes to the Florida resort, what that's like. The extra tips that I have, I know a lot of people are always really curious about, what do you wear? How do you do your makeup? How do you do your hair? I wore what I'm wearing right now. I wore a T-length dress. I will also post pictures so that you can see how short or long it is. And then I did curl my hair. I have since then taken a shower, so it's fallen. This is not what my hair looked like when I went. I just under curled it a little bit, gave it a little bit more volume. I know a lot of people say, keep it out of your face. Well, my short hair typically stays on my face. I think the only thing I did was I made sure that my longer bangs were definitely curled, and then I hairsprayed them back so that they didn't really fall on my face. If you do have longer hair that you're not wanting to hairspray, what I would suggest is just taking your little portion like this and adding a bobby pin, and you would be set to go. For makeup, I just re-rendered what it is that I wore. I'm not wearing any foundation right now, so I am just wearing eyeshadow and eyeliner and mascara. So I'll give you a little bit of a closer look. I am wearing a shimmer eyeshadow as well. Again, my eyeliner is not that thick. It's a really thin eyeliner. I did wing it out a little bit on the other one, but you can see the shimmer in there. So I did that. I, of course, made sure to groom my eyebrows and just kept everything a really natural look for my natural features. I know that some people have said try to play up your character makeup for the character that you're hoping to get. But I think it's better to try to be yourself because they're really looking at who you are and what features you do have so that they can match those characters, especially for a face character. The other thing that I would say is just be uniquely you. The judges at the end of my audition actually complimented me on what I was wearing. And they said that, everything you're wearing is actually, a pretty good fit for, your type of personality, who you are. It's good for your body type. And I was like taking praises because I was like, oh, thank you for thinking so. I do actually have pink hair. I don't expect anybody or tell anybody to go into an interview with pink hair or purple hair or crazy colored hair. I would usually suggest going with a very natural look, a very professional look when you do go in. So at the end, I did mention my concern about my pink hair, and they're like, yeah, we would have you dye it before. I was like, that's completely fine. Whatever you want me to dye it to, I'll dye it. I mean, like, if I get a job at Disney, yeah, I'll dye my hair if that's what it takes. So again, I don't suggest pink hair at all, but they did compliment my look, and so that was kind of nice of them. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it for my Disney interview experience. I do not know if I got a job or didn't get a job. I have currently not been asked about anything or any positions, so that's soon to come. We'll find out from now on. Again, I will post a couple of pictures. I'll even post another picture of a demo of the makeup that I was planning on doing for the audition, so I'll post that up so that you can see my eye makeup a little bit better that way too. And I will post a couple of pictures of what I was wearing to my interview. So I hope that this tutorial was helpful for you and helping to prepare you for your upcoming Disney auditions. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, go ahead and put them in the comments below, and I'll see if I can answer any other questions for you at all. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thanks, everybody. Bye.